Hello and welcome to episode 17 of Pacific Horseplayers right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I am your host, Noah Meagher, back after a 1-week hiatus as my good friend and wonderful co-host Ryan Anderson was able to fill in for me. He is a very gracious co-host that he was able to do that for me while I was down in Tennessee, but I am back this week. So hopefully we will bring you guys a good show this week. Of course, we'll be covering the Coast to Coast Pick 5. I believe this is the first time that we have covered this on PHP, as typically the races don't come out in time. We were originally scheduled to cover the Santa Anita late pick 5, but saw that the races were out, saw that it was a tremendous sequence, so we're going to be covering that for you guys tonight. Of course, let's take care of our administrative stuff. Of course, you can list us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Power Picks tip sheet is still rolling. You can go check that out. Still over $3 plus for the year. Have had a really good 6 weeks or so far to start the year. So make sure you go check that out. And then one thing I did want to talk about, of course, you can check us out at the website, hhhracingpodcast.com. But we do have the new editorial segment with our good friend Davey Lane, Follow the Jockey, I believe it's called. So make sure you go check that out. I know Howard did a little teaser on the Thursday show last week. So make sure you go check that out and support our good friend Davey Lane. Got a lot of good stuff I saw on the X couple days. Posted some kind of tweet about a nice horse that he gave out at some obscure track. So that's just what Davey does for you. But again, go check that out. We've got some viewers in the chat, of course. I'll bring up some comments. Katie's here, of course. She says she's ready for the show on this channel, Horse Racing Fan Channel, of course. Rob N is here. Forecast looks good for both. We can only cross our fingers that it looks good. Terry Frank's here. Hi, all. Marco Liu is starting a conversation about the Derby. Thinks it's wide open. Maybe a foreign horse could win it this year. Definitely could be the case. And then the boss. What's up, guys? Looking forward to playing the Coast to Coast Pick 5 this Saturday. $1 base bet, for the sequence, and also no CAWs, which I know a lot of us are very happy about. And then our good friend who actually was able to hit the Coast to Coast this weekend, good friend Jackson Muniz, and nice jacket, of course. I think he's only saying that because the Eagles beat the Rams, correct, Ryan?
Oh, yeah, y'all got stomped.
Yeah, it was not pretty, but hopefully Jackson's Eagles are able to get it done in this year's Super Bowl, which is coming up this Sunday. I know the Bet and Booze and boys, including myself, will be talking about that game, so make sure you go check that out. And then, of course, we got the show on Thursdays. But before we get into this Coast to Coast Pick 5, we've got a little bit of a special guest to join us. He doesn't really need an introduction, but he is Mr. National Champion. I don't know if I'm ready to hop on the Mr. South Beach bandwagon yet, but here he is, Mr. Charlie Freeman. Charlie, what's going on?
Not much. Yeah, I surprised I haven't gotten any crap in the comments about it, but I know Howard's going to be on me to switch Mr. National Champion, but I'm going to enjoy it a little longer. We're still in football season. Maybe after the Super Bowl, I'll have to make an adjustment.
Yeah, I know Charlie, of course, is a Gulfstream expert, as he likes to self-proclaim. So obviously I wanted to have him on the show and give him an opportunity. He's been wanting to come on to the Coast to Coast or a Coast to Coast sequence if we covered it. And fortunately, we've been able to get that in time. So hopefully we can bring you guys some good picks. We do have tickets that we'll be giving out at the end of the show, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But let's go ahead and get into it. I will go ahead and get the Equibase up first, and hopefully I get the order of these races correct the first time around, because little flip-flop. We started Gulfstream, then Santa Anita, then Gulfstream, and then the last two are back at Santa Anita. The first race that we will be talking about, and the first race of the sequence, is actually a stakes race. It's a ladies turf sprint stakes, 5 furlongs on the turf, running for $140,000 purse. Important to mention that the rails are out 31 feet on Saturday at Gulfstream. Got a nice field of 9. Morning line favoritism most likely to the 7, Just to Care for Luis Saez and Brian Lynch. And I'll go ahead and get the picks up on the screen. And that seems to be a very popular choice, as all three of us are actually going with the 7. I'm going 7-1-2. Ryan's going 7-8-9. And Charlie's going 7-2-3. Charlie, I'll let you talk about this horse first, because she did get the job done last time, and I believe you were a part of her fan club last time.
Yeah, no, I was absolutely. I will say I am very rarely excited for turf sprints. Normally, we like to make the running joke on all of our shows how it's the race everybody hates, but Justa Care was a horse I was all over. I think actually, I know I was at Gulfstream when she ran last time, and I believe that was maybe the first time in God knows how long I'm betting and boozing that one of my best bets I gave out was a horse in the turf sprint. But that's just how much I liked her. She was working really forwardly, as you can see from the workout tab at the time, with that 48-1, 47-3, and 47-2. And then honestly, Junior Alvarado, I know Luis is aboard now, which I have no problem with. He's one of my favorite jockeys, especially for races like these. But gave a perfect ride last time. But also, she was just incredibly impressive. Obviously, she was sitting a bit off the pace, but it was one of those races where, normally we talk about how it's Gulfstream Speedway, and they were absolutely flying, going 20 flat, 42-3. So it isn't the easiest place to close from, but nonetheless, Justa Care set a perfect stalking trip and then went right by that field and one going away. And really just looked to be in terrific form, especially off a little bit of a layoff, being that we haven't seen her since October, and also on the trainer switch to Brian Lynch.
Yeah, Ryan, this is the 5 that I'm showing. She's a little late to switch leads, but once she does, it's just a matter of how much she'll win by. The 10 in that race is the 2 who I've gotten third. Charlie's gotten second. Like Charlie said, she was primarily a front runner until then, but maybe she showed some versatility. Was that what kind of put you towards putting her on top?
Yeah, being versatile, going 5 furlongs on the turf is always fantastic. And it was mainly, honestly, the jockey switched back to Luis Saez, who has already ridden this one to victory before. You get to the top of the stretch in any kind of race, and Luis Saez is the guy you got to catch. You're probably not going to catch him. So I like this one. She's got some tactical ability. She can be anywhere in the field. I know Timeform has her up front, but she proved last time she can pass horses as well. So I think she just makes her own trip, and that's gonna be the winning move for her.
Yeah, I didn't want to overlook it. I know the 8 and 9 are fast, but just the fact that she showed that last time, and we'll talk about the 8 and the 9 because some of us have got them in the mix. But it just seems like, if Louis breaks well, he can just kind of go, maybe outgun the 8 and 9, or if the 8 and 9 are just adamant on trying to go for the lead, Louis can just kind of sit in the pocket, sit in third. And I just think she's probably the best horse in the race. So I'm going to go with her. Ryan, I'll throw it back to you because you have the 8, Eponus Hope, in second, who was on the lead last time. A very quick filly for the Edward Pleasa barn, and Joelle is back on.
Yeah, I think you might get a semi-generous price, just seeing as this one hasn't faced Stakes Company in some time. It hasn't faced Open Stakes Company in even longer. I think if Rosario sends this one to the front, he's another guy that's just tough to finish, and he can always close on a horse. So he's big jockey play for me. I love the win last time out. I know they maybe didn't go blazing fast, but the rest of the pace didn't hold together the greatest. This one powered home, so I'll take this one right back. Second off the bench, ran a career buyer top first off the brief layoff, and Eddie Pleasa, who trains this runner, has a 467 second off this ROI, and there's not a ton of speed. Thanks for throwing that comment up by Jackson. There's not a ton of speed for this being a 5 furlong turf sprint.
Yeah, there's not a ton, and pretty much all of it is to the outside, 7, 8, 9. Charlie, you've got her in third. I believe we handicapped that race and maybe actually played that race as part of a Turf Pick 3. And I remember distinctly in that race, there was quite a bit of speed, and it just seemed like Eponus Hope got the lead pretty easily. Would that maybe be the concern in your camp?
Yeah, I think the thing that I've learned far too many times at Gulfstream is a reason I remember I was so against this horse last time was because I thought there was going to be so much speed. And then as Ryan touched on, it's not like they walked, but certainly for Gulfstream standards, when we were just talking about the 7 and talking about how they go 20 flat, and now you see here they go nearly 22, it just worked out perfectly for her. That being said, again, like Ryan said, gets Rosario back aboard, who rode great last time. And I think you just have to respect that speed. And it's just one of those things where you don't want to end up looking like the guy who got too cute in the turf sprint and said it was this straightforward. And then the horse who just gets to the lead, you say, oh, surely someone will go by. And then that horse just gets loose. So you have to respect it. That being said, I think the one main struggle that the 8 might run into, which you touched on, Noah, is it seems like the 3 fastest horses in the race are all to the outside. So, Justa Care probably, like you touched on, just because of natural talent, can sit off a little the 8-9 if necessary, but the 8's going to have to really try to clear because I think her only way to victory is sending.
That's pretty much exactly why I don't have her in the top 3, because I don't think she's going to clear. She's going to get pressure from both inside and outside. Like I said, I thought she got the dream of it last time. She was also, almost 7-1 in an 8-horse field. So it's not like the public super backing of this filly. So just slightly against her. We will go to who you've got in second, Charlie. We saw her a little bit in the replay. She was a horse that ran second to Just to Care last time. That's the two Karaya for Johnny V and a red hot Cassie Barn.
Yeah, I was going to say that was the first thing I want to start with. I mean, Mark Cassidy is just having a tremendous meet. You know, someone who's seen him run horses at Gulfstream, plenty of meets. Always been a really solid trainer. I'd say obviously more naturally known for what he does in, you know, Canada and Woodbine, but never really breaking through quite to this, this level at Gulfstream. But it's really, especially recently, these last few weeks, impressively enough, when it gets to the championship meet where it should be getting harder, it's actually getting easier for him. I thought last time, obviously, you know, had Irad aboard, now has Johnny V. Had to, you know, close, but got the perfect setup knowing that was the case. I will say, I think her big concern that you might naturally have, and I'm sure this is why maybe you have her in third only, Noah, is that she is pace dependent. Obviously, you see naturally with her running at a mile, running at, you know, 5.5, 6.5, she does need the setup. That being said, in the same way where sometimes we talk about how, you know, there should be speed and there isn't, a horse gets loose, we also see races where there maybe might not be that much speed, but because it's a turf sprint, it ends up being chaos and everybody sends like crazy and goes too fast. And that sets up nicely for a horse like this one. So I still think you can't overlook her, but I'm wondering if the reason you only have her in third off that last effort is because she did get the perfect setup.
Yeah, she did. And I think for her to win, a lot of things have to go her way. I'm not saying that, you know, things can't go her way. I know, you know, the 7, 8, and 9 could certainly heat things up. I know there's not a ton of speed if you look at the field as a whole, but if you look at those three, they're very quick. I just think the 8 and the 9 can maybe get hung out a little wide and maybe not get the best of trips. And that's why I got the 1 and the 2, just because I know they're going to save ground the whole way. If things heat up, I think the 1 and 2 will be running late. So I've got them in the mix. I'll let you touch on the 9, Ryan, before I quickly touch on the 1, and then we'll move on. This is Beauty of the Sea for Joe Orsino, who's actually had this horse at a lot of various places instead of Gulfstream, but brings her back to, I guess, you know, his home track.
Yeah, outside of Just to Care, this runner has one of the top buyers in the field at the 90, going the 5 furlongs over this distance and surface. So I like that, you know, going back to last April under Paco Lopez that day. But I thought the effort off the bench was, I mean, okay. It really didn't wow me or anything, but I don't think that was necessarily her game. I think she loves the Gulfstream Park turf course a lot more. She's never been out of the exact in the 3 tries here. Same with the distance. Clearly prefers turf to the synthetic. And again, we mentioned this is going to be one of the speed horses. So Raylu's going to send on out of there. If he happens to clear the 8, then great. Maybe he just sits that trip that's right off the hip of the 8 and gets kind of first jump on Just to Care and all the others. So we'll see. I like those 3 outside runners in this spot. Again, not a ton of speed, so I think one of them is going to kind of trip out.
And that's why I think I prefer her a little more than the 8, because she is able to sit. And it could just be the fact that maybe she just doesn't like the synthetic. I am a little worried. Maybe she's not the horse that she quite used to be. But again, it could just be that she's got the affinity for the turf. I'll touch on the 1 blind spot real quick, who has a little bit more of an affinity for the synthetic. But if you look at her grass races, I don't really think they're that bad. I mean, you go back to March 31st here at Gulfstream. She ran a nice 4th off the bench, where second place finisher, Don't Look Back at All, is a really nice sprinter for Christophe Clement. Safi had enough confidence to throw her in the Royal North. If you look at that, 2 starts after that, had a nightmare of a trip. But granted, that was a grade 3 race. And then in another listed stake at Woodbine, runs a nice second at 10-1 to Loon Cry, who came back and won. So I find it interesting that Safi's kept this one up in Canada for quite a bit of her career, at least the last 4 or 5 races. But Safi brings her back to South Florida. She's been here for a while. She's working lights out in the mornings. And I think all you have to really say is it's Safi on a Saturday, right? I mean, he's going to bring some runners and they're going to run well. I think this one could certainly run well at a price, but we'll go ahead and move on as I'll get these switched over. We'll move on to the Santa Anita race, but in the first leg, I'm going 7-1-2. Ryan's going 7-8-9, and Charlie is going 7-2-8. Let me go ahead and get the Equibase up on the screen for the next race. The next leg of the Coast to Coast Pick 5 on Saturday is race 5 at Santa Anita. Starter optional claiming $50,000, going 1 mile on the turf, purses $34,000. We got another field of 9 for straight 4-year-old fillies. Morning line favorite could go to most likely 2 horses, either the 1 Certitude or the 6 Kahuraru. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, you nailed that, little bro.
Okay. I knew you were going to fit one in there. I'll get the picks up on the screen. I'm going 1-3-2. Ryan's going 2-6-1, and Charlie's going 1-3-8. Ryan, you are a little bit of the odd man out, going with the 2 Pink Whitney for Dettori, and friend of the pod, Doug O'Neill.
Yeah, this drink is probably named after something that you now get to enjoy being a full adult. But anyway, no, I love Dettori getting on here for second off the bench. Obviously, the sprint effort was very mild, one of this filly's recent worst efforts. But I think that was just a starting off point. I mean, clearly it's progressed well, came out of that fine. I love the works, looking mainly to that January 26th work, going to Bullet 58-3 over the training track at Santa Anita. So I think the stretch out here to a mile, which is clearly her game. She ran pretty decent in the honeymoon, going a mile and an eighth in her start 2 back. So she's faced just better than these in a lot. And I think this is the spot where she finally gets through this level. Dettori aboard certainly helps.
We've got a question in the chat. Jackson says he'd love to see if you actually made morning lines for this race. Is that the case?
I will make those. I just haven't had any time today, but I'll make them for the coast to coast, and I'll put them out either on Twitter or on our show tomorrow. Okay.
Awesome. Back to Pink Whitney. Agree with everything you said. I think a mile is her game. She had been off since June, and then ran in that last race and was a bit of a disaster. She didn't break great. She was really eager. The fact that Dettori hops on, I do like. Charlie, anything to add with this horse?
Yeah, no, I think Ryan made a lot of valid points. I think when I visually had watched that replay, I agreed with him. It kind of just seemed like a horse who needed one, and also, quite frankly, just isn't really meant to be going that short. Isn't one obviously that I have anywhere, but was one that I was thinking about, but quite honestly, just wanted to at least have a bit of a price, which I think I'll get with the 8 in my third position. But I think Pink Whitney absolutely makes sense in this spot.
That's my fault. I thought Pink Whitney was the 3. I forgot that Pink Whitney was the 2. So that's
no, you're all good. We're rolling.
Gulfstream number 1. But Charlie, I will throw it back to you with the 1 Certitude who both of us have on top. What do you like about this filly?
Yeah, certainly makes me feel a little bit better. I didn't know if I was going too much off the path or not to see
I like it.
West Coast bias himself put this horse on top as well. I honestly just thought that effort last time out really wasn't that bad. I thought it was interesting having Joel Rosario aboard, who's certainly obviously not a West Coast jockey by any means. I like the work tab on this horse. I know a lot of the buyer figures are kind of just, pretty repetitive in just the mid 70s, and that just might be what she is. But honestly, when you look around in some of this field, that's really not such a bad number. And, honestly, 1 for 10 is not the most appealing, but I feel like there's some other that have those same issues. I think the one concern someone can naturally argue is the 5 seconds, and that at Santa Anita, 7 efforts and 5 straight seconds for her. But I do think she can get over them. She was bet down to favoritism last time. I thought was really showing a lot of interest late, and at least to me, it was kind of interesting. It seemed like she was sort of just sitting and waiting, and then at the very end started to kick, but it was already too late because that 7 horse had gotten loose. Obviously hasn't had the best efforts at the mile, but to me looked like a horse that would welcome the distance again and is working well. And I like the numbers for Sadler as well from the sprint to the route. So I trust that he knows what he's doing here with this one.
Couldn't agree with you more, Charlie. We will touch on it later, but this is actually my single in the sequence. I'm a big fan of Certitude. I know she's 1 for 10 with 5 seconds, like Charlie said, but I think if you look at her PBs a little more closely, Sadler threw her in allowance races and races at this level, even when she was a maiden, and she was favored in some of those races. After that race in August, they just kind of hit the reset button. Sadler brings her back in a much more reasonable spot, runs a second, and then finally gets the job done at 5 at Del Mar. Shimano was actually on, and he's on again this time, so he was on for the only victory. And I thought her second last time, she was actually the favorite that day too. I thought her second was really good. Long may she range, just took them wire to wire. Total merry-go-round race. You can see that three horses that have come back have improved their buyers. And Long May She Range just, sat some very reasonable fractions. The rails were way out that day. So I don't really have a problem that she ran second the day. I know she's got 4 other seconds, but I don't fault that to second-itis. I fault that to just getting beat by a better horse on a different day. So big fan of the 1 Certitude. Glad you've got Charlie. Ryan, you got anything to add?
Sorry, yeah, just on the number 1. I know I have this horse in third, but this is a big, not a big spread race, but I went a few deep here in the coast to coast. This runner interested me the most. That 5 furlong win, she tossed her head at the start under Vincent. She found some trouble. Towards it's not often you find trouble and you have a bad start in a 5 furlong sprint, and they only went 23 flat for the first quarter at Del Mar. That's not fast at all. So it was miraculous that she chose that day to win. But more so, she just looks like the filly that's getting better as she gets older. She's 4. She's improved all 3 of her buyers since coming off the quick break. So I think this one definitely deserves a big look.
Yeah, not a lot of upside in this field, or not a lot of upside with the rest of the field. Could be some with her, and like you said, this field is just very wishy-washy. A lot of horses that are just running some similar numbers. I'll throw it back to you, Ryan. You've got the 6 Kahu Raru, who ran, I believe that was the day that we were there, ran in a really nice race. Moments Pleasure is a nice horse for Craig Lewis. Lady Claypool came back and won, and that was her first race after about a 6-month layoff.
Yeah, opening day. Johnny V was aboard that day. Yeah, I love this runner. Gets blinkers on out of a Wooten Bassett. Clearly loves the turf. In for the sale of $50,000. So maybe that's a bit of a red flag. But I love my Jonathan Thomas horses out here. This one's been out here for quite some time now. Gets blinkers on, which JT's great at. 27%, 29%, good ROIs. Anywhere you look, and you get Rispoli, who's the best turf rider out here on board. So, I'll take this one. I don't know that I'm going to get much of a price on her, and she probably doesn't deserve to be, a very high price because people are just going to bet these connections and everything. But this is one of the horses I want to use in my exotics.
I think she's probably a logical, and like you said, she might even be the favorite. Like I said, it'll probably be the one of the 6. I'm glad that Charlie is in the same boat as me, just trying to beat her from a horizontal standpoint. But yeah, could certainly win. I do like the fact that Rispoli hops on. I think that's probably a telltale sign. So definitely one to consider. We did not talk about this horse. Charlie, this is actually the 3 Upcharge, who I thought was a very nice maiden winner last time. Obviously took 6 starts, but still one of the few that I think has some room to improve.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And kind of like we were hinting at with the 1, for me, even though they've, the 1 and 6 or 1 and 3 are not the least started horses, being 1 is 10 and 1 is 6 starts now. And, Ryan 6, which I think was a fair point, has only had 2 starts. I thought Upcharge was the other one that really stood out to me that looks like a horse that's continuously improving. She's also 4 now. And I thought that effort was really impressive last time out. Obviously, when I had watched her past few races, I thought the buyers were pretty accurate. She kind of just looked like the same horse over and over again. But I personally, and I'll let you speak on it more, Noah, but I kind of thought I saw a different side to her last time. I saw a horse who was able to sit closer than the past. I understand they weren't setting crazy fractions, but I think a big issue in the past is she's had too much work to do and hasn't really been able to make up any ground. Whereas this time they got her within 2 lengths. She was able to sit closer to the lead. And then when she went by, she didn't look back. I think she could have won by more. She cleared pretty easily. And obviously Phil D'Amato horse, it seems like he's starting to figure out. I know there's, a bit of a layoff, but I just think if she can replicate what we saw last time out and be a little bit closer, she's really dangerous.
Yeah, I know the time form doesn't maybe have her as close as maybe you would hope, but I think the 7's probably going to sit some reasonable fractions. That's Step It Out, who's also another Phil D'Amato runner. So I think he'll probably set it up maybe for his counterpart in the 3. But like you said, I agree with everything. Upcharge again was, I thought, a really nice winner last time. Like you said, could have won by more. I know people will probably think that maybe it was just the time, just because she faced some lesser company, but just the way she did it and the number she got, I think was enough to back her right back here on Saturday. The last horse that we will touch on is the 8, Last Elizabethan. Last Elizabeth. No, I'm not gonna. Charlie, you got her in 3rd. Would you like better?
Yeah, so she's also one. She was the one who actually ran on 2nd against Upcharge. And actually, I had watched the gallop out and was kind of impressed with the way that when it initially looked like Upcharge could have just gone away and won for fun, and in the gallop out did get way away from the rest of the field. The only one that even stayed close in that gallop out was this one. Obviously, then came back and was disappointed again, Step It Out, but then came back another effort after that and was able to finally break the maiden. I just thought this is one, honestly, where I thought it was interesting that, Juan Hernandez is aboard. And obviously, not ideal for a horse to, again, be 1 for 10, but is one that has pretty consistently been in the money. And just seems like one where she always gives her try. And I think at a price is certainly at least an underneath play and, could certainly reach her tries in this race.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Could certainly be a good case of the old light bulb angle. But we'll go ahead and move on. I'm going 1-3-2. Ryan's going 2-6-1, and Charlie's going 1-3-8. As we go ahead and move it back over to Gulfstream. Race 12, This is a starter optional claiming 35,000. Another 1 mile affair on the turf. This is for 38,000. And we got a big and wide open field of 12. As
No idea who the favorite.
Talk about it later. Morning line favoritism could go just about as many horses as you can imagine, and it certainly could be quite the doozy. I'm actually very surprised that Charlie and I are actually quite similar in this race, at least on top. I'm going 10-2-3. Ryan's going 8-2-6, and Charlie's going 10-6-5. Charlie going with the aptly named horse in the 10, I'm Due, for Jorge Ruiz and Kent Sweezy.
Yeah, and I can promise those that are watching, I did not go with this horse simply because it has by far the best name in this field. I just thought visually that effort last time out was really impressive. I thought it was interesting, obviously not being for such major connections for this horse to come off of, 2 straight disappointing efforts, but also understandable efforts, and that this horse was, 21-1 and 37-1. Obviously 2 back running in a field that had Walken and Memphis, who then was trying to step up in No More War, who don't want to talk right now, but who I think is an incredible talent. But then after that, to get bet down for, again, not major connections from 37-1 last time out to then go off as 2-1 this time, I think was interesting and kind of spoke that the public thought something was coming. And when I just watched this horse visually, I was really impressed. Obviously, we'll get to the horizontals later. I think we can all agree this race is pretty wide open. That being said, while I don't have, one particular horse I would jump as far as to go single or get excited about, I'm Due by far and away was the horse who did excite me the most. I thought looked really professional, one going away, still had plenty left in the tank, and is one that I think I trust to build on distance, and also had a nice workout last time. And another thing I thought was interesting was for Sweezy, who again is not a major connection. When I saw that 22% after winning last start, I thought that was something that, you have to at least acknowledge.
Yeah, and he's not really a guy that, doesn't ship a lot of stock down to South Florida. He's had 33 runners so far, but, his barn is doing very well, 7 firsts, 3 seconds, and 8 thirds. This is, maybe another one where it was just a case of, just kind of dropping down. Obviously, we talk about it, maiden special weight to maiden claiming is the biggest drop in racing. But I think the fact that he got Lasix last time was a big difference. And the 68 buyer matches up pretty well with the 91 time form. The 91 time form is one of the higher ones that you'll see in this field. So, agree with what you got, Charlie, as Ryan just knocked over some kind of pan. But we'll throw it back to Mr. Pan Man. He's got the 8 Sell It, who's coming out of a race that several others are coming out of, which is actually on the synthetic for the D'Angelo barn.
Yeah, I'm pretty much not tossing the synthetic effort, but certainly not the surface I think she wants to run on. McKenzie, the sire, has had just an excellent year with his 2, now 3-year-olds and his first crop. I love the effort 2 back going 7.5 for the maiden 50. I know just got up just in time. I tipped over my water bottle. That wasn't a pan, but it sounded like it. But yeah, I love the paired up buyer tops, as our buddy Jackson. That's his favorite angle, and it's one that I like to utilize in the toolbox every now and then. But I like the breeding. I like Castellano and D'Angelo as they team up here. This horse just should sit a decent trip, and I know this horse has some finishing ability, so I want to see this one step it up, and I'm hoping I might get, a fair price, maybe 5-6 to 1-ish. But I'm with you guys. The favorite shouldn't be lower than 4-1, 7-2 in here.
Yeah, and I was a little surprised by this. I believe they've got her third with a hot pace. And the one time that she came off, or that she was running on the turf, she came from quite off of it. So, I could see her sitting a pretty good trip. Obviously, she's got the one turf start, so could definitely improve off that. And you could be right. She just might not have taken to the synthetic. I've got her in the pick 5. Charlie's got her in the pick 5. So certainly one that could get the job done in a wide open race. We'll throw it back to you, Ryan, with the 2 River of Time, who actually ran third in that race. Another one that is a little iffy on the turf.
Yeah, this one needs to prove it on turf for sure, but this one seems to have some tactical ability. I like that Johnny V keeps the mount as this one goes onto the turf for the first time. I know Ron Spatz is 0-15, but whatever, I'll toss that. You get Johnny V, you get a horse with some tactical ability that should sit a nice trip in the pocket, because I think the number 1 Honor Mags is going to send likely from the 1 coming out of those sprint races as well. So I'm hoping River of Time just, it's a nice little pocket trip, is able to find room at the top of the stretch. And being out of a Warfront sire, and that's confidence enough. I think this horse is going to be okay on the turf. Has handled the synthetic fine, so I think the transfer shouldn't be too much of an issue. And yeah, again, I like that. I like the big buyer improvement from start 1 to start 2. So has already faced winners once. Broke her maiden in the debut, or his maiden. So yeah, I think it's a good shot in here.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything. She got the job done at first asking. I do have a little bit of concern that if he really wanted the turf, maybe they would have gone there second time around. But this is just a wide open field. You're going to pay the price with anybody. If you watch that last race, he was really headstrong, 3 wide, and kind of made an early move and then just kind of flattened out. The second place finisher is the 7 in this race. That's Possum, who was just super headstrong as well. I've actually got him on the ticket. He was a big price that day. We've got some funny guys in the chat. I'll bring up this comment from the boss. He says, maybe you should keep that water bottle 20 lengths clear of your hands and arms in the middle of the show.
That's fair. That's very valid. That was a wild leg move by me.
It was. Charlie, we'll go to the 6, who I believe is dual income.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Another one for the Orsino barn that we talked about. Another one that was also in that race, and another one that actually had their lone victory on the turf.
Yeah, kind of similar angle to Ryan with the 8 horse. I just thought visually from what I watched, this is a horse who wants the turf. And, obviously they tried dirt for a while, tried it against much better, clearly wasn't working, then switched to the turf, got higher out of board, and one going away. To be honest with you, if I had to guess, I think this horse dual income will likely end up going off as your morning line favorite. I agree with Ryan. I'd say this one will probably be 7-2, 4-1 is the favorite morning line. No one should be a big favorite. But yeah, kind of just went through the motions, to be honest. Had a bit of a bump start, but nothing major, like the comments mentioned, just a bump start, nothing crazy. But I just thought it was one that never really got into it and didn't really take to the Tapeta at all. Kind of just went around the track, accepted just, be in that 3rd, 4th area and never really moved. But when you watch her effort or his effort on the turf, you can see that kick towards the end after he was sitting off the pace was far different. And so that's why I have a lot of confidence that dual income can be better on the turf. Probably is the horse to beat. I just wanted to look for a bit of a better price and more upside on top than this one, but I think makes a ton of sense and has the work sauce to back that he should come back for another nice effort on the turf.
We've got another question in the chat from the boss. He says, thinking about taking a mental health day tomorrow from work. He asked, should I do it? Haven't taken one this year. Thoughts? Yes, no.
I mean, I think Wednesday's a bit of a boring day in the week to take it off. I would maybe recommend later in the week, make it a long weekend, maybe take, Thursday off so you can have a late night enjoying watching me on Betting and Boozing, but I won't judge.
I'd agree.
Yeah, I mean,
let's go to the 5, who you've got in 3rd, Charlie, Dreams of My Father. Claim away from our boy Real Manny. No, I'm just kidding. It's Manny Real. Back to the D'Angelo barn. He's a little slow on figures, but again, thought the win last time was good. And it's not going to take a world beater to beat this field.
No, agreed. And I mean, look, obviously we love our boy, but Jose D'Angelo is a very respected trainer here. And, 16% on first claim, which I had to notice. And the one thing I really liked about this horse is I feel like we kind of talk about it a lot in these kind of tougher, not as high level races, is sometimes nobody really just passes and they do just kind of go around the track and nothing really happens. And I feel like in a race like that, you want a horse that's going to be forward. And honestly, I remember when I was watching this race with you and I couldn't believe you won, not anything against the horse, but just because for that kind of level, he was setting some pretty serious fractions to go almost 23 flat and in the low 47s and was able to win quite honestly. I understand it wasn't quite going away, but no one was really catching him. I mean, you could tell off the turn, there was still plenty of horse. Didn't really look like one where you would say, oh, can't get the extra distance and gets Lasix now. I think this one certainly could make sense. And again, in these kinds of races, I don't think I know when you would show the time for him, this one will certainly be forwardly placed. And I think even if he's not on the lead, could certainly be close. And another angle, again, I like similarly where I was talking about with dual income is this was also one who started off on the dirt and then switched to the turf and seemed to take well to it.
Yeah, no, I like the thinking. Obviously the assumption is that D'Angelo is going to move him up a little bit. Obviously, we love Manny Real, but he's only 1 for 27. Moving to the D'Angelo barn is quite a big step up. And then we've seen it with I'm Due and several other instances where Lasix can make a big difference. So could be big improvement and certainly should get a decent price. The last horse that I will touch on, I have to say this is strike number 2 from the host because this is supposed to be the 12. I don't know how I came up with the 3. But this is the outside post with the 12, Dime Papi, which I believe in Spanish is Give It To Me Dad. Can you guys confirm that?
Yeah,
Ryan,
sounds right.
I think D-May is like I thought D-May was tell me. Maybe I don't know. It's
it
either
could
give
be.
me or tell me.
Could be right. But thought the win on debut was pretty good. I know he was 36-1 that day, but they only bought him for 12. So the fact that he was in for 35, yeah, Matt's got it right. Yeah. Oh no, Matt does
Yeah,
not.
I was right. Tell me. That's what I said.
Okay. And then had enough confidence to throw him in the pulpit, which he was just way over his head. But they given him some time off to progress. We talk about the progression from 2 to 3. He's another one that's breathing fire in the mornings. I don't care who you are, what level. Going 4 furlongs and 45-2 doesn't matter how fast the track is. That is wicked. And Saez hops on in a race where a quality jockey could make all the difference. So I've got him in the mix. There's plenty of other horses to talk about, but we'll go ahead and move on. I'm going 10-2-3. Ryan's going 8-2-6. And Charlie is going 10-6-5. Let me get this switched over because we're going back to Santa Anita for the last 2 races. And here is the Equibase. Race 7, which is the 4th leg of the Coast to Coast Pick 5, is the Grade 3 San Marcos Stakes. It is a field of 8 running for $100,000, going 1.25 miles on the turf. Of course, they start that race a little bit on the hill. Got a field of 8, like I said. Money line favoritism most likely to either the 6 Truly Quality or the 7 Divine Propo, and I'll get the picks up on the screen. Looks like we are very similar, somewhat similar with the actually all 3 are going with the 6. I'm going 6-7-2. Ryan's going 6-8-7, and Charlie is going 6-8-2. I believe, Charlie, I went to you last time. So I'll go to you, Ryan, with the 6 Truly Quality for Vince Chemenon, who we talked about, and another Jonathan Thomas runner.
Yeah, I mean, I know this runner's coming off a bench, but going back to last year's form on this horse, the last probably 5 races win in this spot, has just faced better, has just overcome trouble, or has just made the trip work for this horse. And Vincent, comes out here for the day to ride, I would assume, just this horse. I know he's listed on some other mounts, but this is kind of his main one for the weekend. As I think you're pulling up the replay here from Del Mar, which was great in the Hollywood Turf Cup. Somehow got up over Balnikov this day. This was just a ridiculous finish from this horse. You're going to see him come on the outside, and Balnikov is the 9 in behind and is actually just going to be on the outside and pass him for a bit. And Jackson is telling me to stop in the comments because he was a big Balnikov guy this day. So you'll see the 11 Truly Quality re-rally here when he looks beat. And this is just the kind of game horse that I want here. This is a horse that knows how to find the winning post out in front. So I'm going to take him here. I know he's off a bit of a bench, but I think he's just the best horse.
Yeah, obviously, Charlie, you saw that replay. It looked like he did his best running pretty late. Later on in that race. Was a very good win. Of course, I had to bring up pretty much the entire stretch so our good friend Jackson could watch that and reminisce about his previous bets. The thing I do like about Truly Quality, Charlie, is, they gave him a little bit of a break. He had a pretty long campaign. It looks like they've kept him down at Santa Anita for pretty much the entire time. I think there's a lot of intent here, and certainly one that could be a factor in this race.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with everything you and Ryan were talking about. I just think the consistency is there. Doesn't seem to matter completely, obviously, within the distance. If it is, 1.5 miles, 1 3/8. I understand, obviously, we're going to 1 1/4, but the other thing I like is this is one who has shown experience, especially in California, going even as short as 1 mile. So I don't think they'll be worried. I also, again, as Ryan was talking about, I think and you two know, I think there's a lot of clear intention on this horse. And I think you could argue, granted, obviously this is also just the featured race naturally, but if you just look through the card in general, I think this is the horse that sticks out by far, where you can see for every part of the connections from the trainer to the jockey to the horse itself, that this was well thought out, well planned. And even though it is a little bit of a layoff, it seems like they were specifically pointing to the spot. And I don't really see any reasons for concern for the form to lack by any means. And I really do think, obviously, these races can be unpredictable. Noah, you and I have had, especially at Gulfstream, far too many experiences in these distance races where shit hits the fan. But I just think this is the horse to beat and really hasn't put a foot wrong.
Yeah, these marathon races just tend to kick me in the most of the time. I kind of saw this as a 2-horse race, but I'm interested to see what you guys both like about the Easter. You both got him in second. Charlie, I'll start with you. What'd you like about this 7-year-old that's actually stretching out to this distance for the first time?
Yeah, so I think the stretch that'll be interesting, but I just have really liked his form, and I think he'll welcome it. You know, a horse who time form, I normally like to give crap when they're a little too disrespectful about a horse by saying they have no early speed, but I think Ryan would agree with me. It's true. This one does not have any early speed. So I think the extra distance will be welcomed. And honestly, I think the buyer figures are not just impressive for a horse of this age, but they're also accurate. I mean, when I was visually watching, it's not like I was watching a horse getting generous buyers. I was watching a horse who has somehow at this age continued to maintain just this stellar form. And really it's just, you know, regardless of what the pace setup is or where the horse has been placed, has shown that ability to have that late kick. And I think now here, where that early speed won't be quite as much of an issue with that extra distance to work with, certainly can be dangerous. And I also just trust Phil D'Amato. And, you know, for a horse who's gone 1 1/8 plenty of times and has seemingly been closing and still had stuff left in the tank and looked great in the gallop out, I don't think this horse would be going 1 1/4 if D'Amato didn't think he could get that out of this one. And also, I just think when I watched the replay last time, just did not have the best trip or sort of ride last time out, ran into some trouble, obviously broke incredibly slow, and then really rallied well towards the end against some really nice horses.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree with that. Ryan, I showed the time form. Where do you think that Fraser will have him early on with the stretch out? Because I know he's one that certainly likes to target, but with the stretch out and really not a ton of speed in the race early on, from what it seems on paper, could certainly set up for some horses in some different spots early on.
Yeah, I mean, the three of us in a horse suit have more early pace than Easter does, but I think with the 1 1/4 on the stretch out, hopefully it just has this horse sitting a couple lengths closer. I don't know that Easter is going to be anywhere near the front still, but I think he still has a very strong ability to close into any pace that he faces. Howard brought up a great point in the chat. I mean, look who he's lost to recently. He's lost to horses, Johannes, Meagher, Ramon, who would be odds on here. De Jour, no. But other than that, Easter's either been winning or he's been facing absolute monsters. So he's not one that I can trust on top, but he's one I definitely trust in the horizontal plays because he's a horse that should be a decent price, but I'm not gonna put too much weight into relying on him.
Yeah, Ryan, you've got this horse in third. Actually, Charlie doesn't have this horse in the top three. Devine Propos, most likely the second choice, just seems like maybe the up and comer. He's had a little trouble in his last 2 starts, but was fully on. He's only 5, and he's facing some horses that are 7 and 8 now. Could certainly be one that trips out, I think.
Absolutely. He's young. He likes he's young for this group. He has wins and he clearly likes the distance, having 6 in the money finishes from 7 starts. Yeah, I think this one's going to be closer to the speed than Easter. Maybe even more so than Truly Quality. Actually, for sure, more than Truly Quality. I think Divine Propose it's a good trip. Rispoli hops on this one. You might get a decent price because he's had some light figures. He's lightly raced in the United States, yet he has 2 wins going the 1 1/4 here. So I think he should. He has the ability to surprise.
Yeah, I agree with that. Last horse we'll touch on is the 2. There goes Harvard. Charlie, you've got him in third. I've got him in third. Seems like one of maybe the more hard knocking. He's definitely a 1 1/4 type. There's some other horses that we're not going to touch on that are maybe stretching out and don't know if they can handle going this far. But this is certainly not one of them. And if he runs back to that second in the John Henry Turf Cup 2-back, could certainly be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, gets Dettori aboard, 12 for 20 in the money. Just like you were saying, just a trying horse, one that you always have to respect. Obviously, being 7 years old now, there is that knock. But, like we've touched on, this is an older field, and this is one who has just ultra consistent numbers. All you're seeing are just mid-90s. Another one who's run against some decent fields. Obviously, last time out was in the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Turf, which was obviously just, too difficult for this one, but kind of one of those where, what the heck, if you think you have an opportunity to throw a horse in there at 67 to 1, why not give it a shot at 7 years old and see what happens? I just think is one that, like you said, it's just this game we actually know is not stretching out. We know has taken to the distance and we trust can run at the distance. And I just think is one of the safer bets in this field to at least run somewhere around, 3rd or 4th place in the money.
Yeah, certainly a board or a legitimate chance to hit the board. Wow, I can't speak. We were going to move on, but there's actually some love in the chat from our good friend Jackson. talking about the 3 Lord Bullingdon. Ryan, this is a horse that we had a conversation about with the trainer, Michael McCarthy, who said that always wanted to stretch him out and get him going a little bit of a further route of ground. Ran a nice 4th last time in the Mathis Mile, which was just a merry-go-round race. King of Gosford just took him the whole way. Has gelded him since then, stretched him out to 1.25 miles. Kyle Frey hops on. Jackson thinks he's going to lead. What say you?
I mean, yeah, he's going to be forward, but I think 911 Turbo and a Tietlin right to his outside those 2 horses, if the jockeys choose to be aggressive, that they have as much early speed as the number 3 Lord Bullingdon does. I don't know that they'll be as aggressive as Frey, so Frey could make the difference there. If he has strong intentions of sending to the lead, then he could definitely get there by himself. But hey, we've seen Mike Smith send on these turf routes or turf marathons before for sure. And I mean, Hector will kind of play the break and see, but the Sheriff's horse actually has a decent amount of training, was sitting close-ish second with Mike Smith aboard last time when he lost to King Gosford. So, I mean, Lauren Bullington's not out of the picture. Second McCarthy entrant in there with There Goes Harvard. So interesting to see, and Frey could definitely take the lead if he wants it.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting to see how the early pace dynamic plays out. We'll go ahead and move on to the finale, but I'm going 6.72. Ryan's going 6.87, and Charlie's going 6.82.
Jackson is slandering me in this chat right now.
Is he really?
Yeah. Said I liked Mike Smith.
That is 100% not true. We'll go ahead and move on to the last race. The last race we'll be talking about, and of course, the last race of the Coast to Coast Pick 5 is race 8 at Santa Anita. Allowance optional claiming 50,000. 6 furlongs on the main track. I believe this is the only main track race that we'll be talking about, and is part of the sequence. And the smallest field of the sequence, field of 7. Morning line favoritism, most likely to the 7, all the way to the outside, and Seismic Beauty. The Maryland bred for Juan Hernandez and Bob Bafford. Picks are already up on the bottom of the screen. I'm going 1.75. Ryan's going 7.31. Charlie is going 7.61. You two are not getting cute. Going with Bobby B himself. Charlie, we'll start it with you. 1 for 2 in her lifetime. Has been off a little bit of a layoff, but looks to be like she could get an easy lead.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I saw it. I don't think Juan's going to be messing around here. Gets the outside post as well, which I think helps. I think he's just going to send to the lead, not look back. And quite honestly, I just don't know if there's enough pace to get there. I'm not sure if Seismic Beauty is naturally the best horse in this race, but again, I just think from what ability we have seen, from the way the setup is, and from what distance we're going at, I just think it all sets up perfectly for her. Obviously, there is the bit of a layoff, but then you see how ridiculous Bob Baffert's numbers are off these kinds of layoffs, and you don't feel quite as concerned. And again, gets Juan back aboard. She looked really impressive last time out. Obviously, on debut, lost to One Magic Philly, who came back to be a really nice horse. So even though she has only had 2 efforts, obviously the first one turned out to run against a really nice horse. And then in the second one, maybe not running against any monsters by any means, but one going away pretty convincingly and could end up getting a similar trip here.
Yeah, Ryan, I know we can't really see much for her PPs because she's only got 2 starts, and we're looking at, the majority of Where's My Rings PPs. But nonetheless, Uncle Mo Philly, they paid $550 for her. Believe it or not, I actually tipped out the exacta on the Del Mar Power Picks tip sheet. Just had to get that little thing in there. But yeah, anything else you got to add with Seismic Beauty?
I mean, Seismic Beauty to me most likely winner in the sequence, but if Ragtime Rose and Seismic Beauty had their post positions flipped, I'd say Ragtime Rose is probably the most likely, just because I think the 7 is now going to trip out and just be able to sit the right trip, either send directly to the leader if Hector really wants to be aggressive from the rail, which off this filly's last effort, or mare rather, off the mare's last effort, maybe could get close to the front. But I think with the post position and Hernandez aboard, I think he sends the lead, doesn't look back. Not the strongest horse in Bob Baffert's barn, but I think a winner versus this field.
Yeah, I'm probably overanalyzing with the one Ragtime Rose, but I thought her dirt effort was really good. Thought she did a lot of the dirty work. Just got run down by Safa, who's a favorite that day. A pretty nice filly for the Gary Stute barn. Was too clear of which they all could be who's in this race, and there was another filly or mare that was in the race. Of course, she's only been on the main track 1 time, so she could certainly improve. I actually watched her work back on February 1st. She was spectacular. I thought she was really good. I don't know if Hector actually worked that day, but she went 4 furlongs, 47-2. I thought it was a really good work, and it just looks like she's really ready to go on the muscle. Obviously, the worry is that Seismic Beauty could certainly just kind of get an easy lead and take them the whole way. But I think Ragtime Rose is sitting on a big effort. And there's been a lot of big efforts from the Jeff Mullins barn lately, 32%, 12 for 37. So I'm going to use the 1 and the 7. This is something that we talk about with ticket construction. A lot of times I'm against using, 2 shorter prices, I guess, on maybe the same A line or the same level, same weighted. But I think this would maybe be an exception because I think Ragtime Rose might be a little bit of a decent price. Jackson makes a good point. This is a good race for a double. Obviously, we talked about the race before, but there are other races within the sequence that I think you can get some value. So going with the 1 Ragtime Rose, if it's 1 or 7, I'm certainly going to be out. But we'll go ahead and talk about the 3. I quickly mentioned Wish They All Could Be, Ryan, who you've got in second. She's another one that's just really hard hitting. She's 7 now. She's run some numbers that can certainly compete with this group, and hopefully she's able to get back to those.
Yeah, she's got some quick early speed. I know her last few buyers have been a little light, but at least have been consistent. So I like to see that. Look, this might be reading into it a little too much, but the number, I believe 6, Becky's Dream, is also, number 5, Becky's Dream, also trained by Hector Palma. This one has a bit more speed, has Carmona aboard. Maybe, again, this is a dirt race. It's not, a stakes race at Saratoga or anything, but maybe Carmona is under the instruction to send hard here, seeing as that is that filly's best way to go. And then maybe that sets it up for Wish They All Could Be if she duels with Seismic Beauty. So that's kind of how I looked at it. I think Carmona, I don't think they're going to run the same race. So I think Carmona is going to be the one or on the one with some speed. Maybe that sets it up for Wish They All Could Be if Seismic Beauty maybe just doesn't have it that day. But again, she's tough to get around.
Tell you what, if you're a fan of the 1 like myself, I would certainly love for Carmona to send as fast as he possibly can, because that's going to ruin things up for Seismic Beauty for sure. Maybe she's just not fast enough. The 7 can certainly just be the naturally faster animal. But if he's able to just, put even a little more speed and make her work a little bit more, I think that could pay dividends for the 1 and maybe the 3, which they all could be. Last horse that we'll touch on, Charlie, is the 6, Where's My Ring, who we saw down in Louisville, Kentucky, actually in the Oaks. Very sloppy day that day. Obviously didn't run well. Has actually tried turf since then. She's been off for a while, but maybe she just needed the time. You've got her in second.
Yeah, this is by far and away the biggest wild card in the race and the one I've had the most trouble figuring out. Obviously, in the past, we've seen her try to run at these shorter distances and has run against some nice fillies, but it was just ultimately too short for her. My angle with this one was just a combination of the class and also if they do decide that they don't want to let Seismic Beauty just get loose and get away and the pace does heat up, I think Where's My Ring's class could end up benefiting her and she could catch up. I think this is a very complicated filly to figure out. Was running, in grade 3s and, even in a grade 1 before she had broken her maiden, was one that you and I know kind of at the time we thought was going to be bold before she went off as the favorite. You and I had both picked Where's My Ring to win the Gazelle, which ended up actually happening. And we had talked about how she had just been running through a gauntlet of difficult races and that, they finally got her in a spot that we thought she could win. And, certainly not the typical way you see a horse break their maiden is by winning a grade 3 race. Then, tries to go into the Oaks and Acorn, runs against the Grizzly Bear and, got beat up pretty bad. And then they try to throw her into a turf race and she gets a layoff. So I just think it's a complete wild card here. But to me, I just think if the 7 loses, this is the horse that stood out to me as the one who could beat her.
Yeah, I like it. Maybe a little bit preppy, as you say, but she's certainly got the numbers. And if she's ready to go off the layoff, could certainly be one that could upset the 7 Seismic Beauty. We'll go ahead and move on to our tickets, though. But in the finale, I'm going 175. Ryan's going 731, and Charlie's going 761. Of course, we'll go ahead and move on to the tickets. Charlie being the guest, he will kick us off. 2-7 with 1-3 with 2-5 6-8 10-12 with 6-8 with 6-7 $96 ticket. Charlie, floor is yours.
Yeah, so I mean, again, I think Just a Care, honestly, I know Ryan was talking about towards the end with the 7 just now potentially being the most likely winner. I think that's very reasonable, but I would almost push back and say that you could argue Just a Care could be the most likely winner in this sequence. I know it's a turf sprint, but that's how much I love this horse. That being said, like I said, crazier things have happened, so I am using the Cassie horse in case there is a meltdown. Again, acknowledge the 8-9, but ultimately I think Just a Care will just be too close to let either of them get loose. Then going into the next race, Noah, I know you and I are all over that one. Obviously, I know you feel a little stronger than I do, but I also thought the 3 upcharged made sense as well, and I just didn't have a strong enough feeling single. Then we get to the last race at Gulfstream, which I'll let you guys show your tickets as well, but I can warn you that are watching right now, I don't think any of us had a strong enough opinion to take a single there. So I'm just using every single horse that we talked about tonight. That's how wide open I think that race is. We talked about 6 horses. I have them all there. Again, I do think the 10 stuck out to me as my top pick in that race, but it is completely wide open. Then going with the 6-8, again, I think Easter's a little interesting, but I think the 6 is clearly the horse to beat, but again, just don't love those marathon races single. Then we just talked about the last race. The 7 is absolutely the horse to beat, but in case Where's My Ring is ready off the layoff, I wanted to have both covered.
I like it. Good luck with that. Ryan is standing on business. He's only going with 4 in the finale at Gulfstream. His ticket's 7-8 with 2-6-8 with a 1-2-6-8 with 2-6-7-8 with 7. Also a $96 ticket, Ryan.
Yeah. Starting with first leg, obviously Just a Care is strong. I think the 8 has a chance to maybe make the lead and maybe take them all the way if Rosario really gets aggressive out of the gate. So I want to use that one just in case, just because I've gotten too cute in those turf sprints at Gulfstream Park the last couple times, and the same horse Coppola has beat me twice by just breaking fast, clearing the field, and that was it. So yeah, I'm not going to let that happen again. I'm going to take the horse that I think has the most natural speed early, and then use them with Just a Care. Next leg, I'm going 2-6-8. Pretty simple. Just keep moving through there. Those are my top 3. Finale at Gulfstream Park. I'm only going 1-2-6-8. I could go deeper. And I might trim the next leg, just come game day, but I'm just going to kind of play it by ear. But this is what I feel most confident in right now. Just staying alive to Seismic Beauty. I'll go 2-6-7-8 in the marathon race at Santa Anita. I think you could spread a little deep there. Hope to get lucky. I did throw in There Goes Harvard because I think that runner has some back class and some back races to get to. And I think Lord Bullington might help provide some pace in what looks like a pretty slow race. So there goes Harvard, might get a decent setup. And then, yeah, just staying alive to Seismic Beauty. You gave us a pretty reasonable $100 budget here, and I like it because even when this thing chalks out, you're still going to get, about 3-1 if it ever does chalk out, which is so rare with these $1 pick fives.
Yeah, especially with the $1 minimum. I love the ticking construction with the single at the end. Probably the most likely winner of the sequence, but of course you got coverage elsewhere. Good luck with that. I've got my ticket up on the screen, and believe it or not, we all 3 have tickets that are $96. I'm going 1-2-5 with 1, with 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, with 6, 7, with 1, 7. Single Incertitude in the second leg. Got basically the whole field in the finale at Gulfstream, 2-horse race after that. And then if I get there, I'm going to try to beat the 7 Seismic Beauty with the 1 Ragtime Rose. So that will certainly increase the payout. I believe if anyone is alive, I would think a lot of tickets would do the same thing as Ryan, where they'd single the 7 Seismic Beauty, spread in other races, excuse me. And then I think the 1 could certainly be a big payout, and the board might not show how big of the discrepancy is. So hopefully I can get that ticket home for everyone. Hopefully one of the tickets on this screen can get it home. As I put the final banner up, Charlie, I'll throw it to you for final thoughts because you are the guest. Anything you want to talk about? And I have a feeling there's maybe a slight podcast of your own that you might want to, tip out to us.
Yeah, so I'll say 2 things. One, admittedly, I will say I have not actually deep dived into the race, but I know Noah was gracious enough to point out to me that No More War is running at Gulfstream in race 4. Yeah. So that's a horse that I have tipped out before that broke my heart off of one of the worst rides you'll ever see. But pay attention to that one for the Red Hot Cassie Barn. Makes a lot of sense. Then, yeah, a quick plug that I was given the opportunity to do. If you guys do want to check it out, I'll put it in the comments as well. Freeman Sports Pod, my sports podcast I used to run, had been 4 years in the making, got caught up with college and other big things, but decided to bring it back, mainly covering just big sports news, primarily in this case right now, NBA. Just put an episode on the Luka trade that went down. We'll be doing another episode for the trade deadline, and then there'll be more stuff come March Madness time, and probably even do a Super Bowl one as well. So if you guys want to support it and check it out, I'll also post it again on my Twitter.
I like it. Ryan, final thoughts? Anything you want to talk about? Luka trade, Charlie's podcast, Sam F. Davis, anything? Floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Sam F. Davis day down at Tampa. Those are fun. I like those big days at Tampa. I think it's kind of one of those underrated tracks. So I'm looking forward to playing down there as we ramp up towards the bigger Kentucky Derby prep races. And I was stoked to have Charlie on here. Obviously, doing the coast to coast was a ton of fun. And I'm happy we got the sequence out in time to do it. So, Lil Bro, thanks for hosting as always. Happy to have you back and looking forward to keeping it going, you know?
There's going to be a day where Charlie and I will be running this show and you will not be a part of it, my friend. If you keep that up. Anyways, that's going to wrap things up for us. For our special guest, Charlie Freeman, and my normal co-host, Ryan Anderson. This has been your host, Noah Maher. And this has been episode 17 of Pacific Horseplayers, covering the Coast to Coast Pick 5 for Saturday, February 8th. Make sure you check us out, Betting and Boozing on Wednesday and Picks and Ponies on Thursday. And of course, BHP out.